Don't be a...
This scene always bothered me. It always feels out of place. It seems that it's not following the rules that are set for this universe that this film takes place in. Also, it's a rectangle. I Googled it and I found this article on Slate. I also found a Reddit thread where everyone was confused. Now, I found this on Quora, and this is a fan saying, look, Tarantino always makes references to other films. The reason we don't recognize this is because it's from a film that he knows that we don't know. But I don't think that can be right. This is the internet. Somebody else would have to know the reference. There was another comment on Quora that said that this was a reference to an episode of the Flintstones and that Tarantino had written that in the scene description on the original screenplay.
Hi-fi is really a square.
So I Googled Quentin Tarantino and the Flintstones, and the first thing that came up is this image. But I scrolled further down and I found this. So I went and looked up the screenplay and found multiple versions of it. The first, oldest version I could find doesn't even contain this line. Later versions of the screenplay do have the line. She says, you can get a steak here, don't be a... And then in the script, it says she draws a square on the screen and a dotted line appears around the square. Well, actually, he misspelled square, but he still didn't write rectangle.
He's no cat. He's a square.
That Flintstones episode is called The Girls' Night Out, and it first aired in January of 1961. That summer, the movie The Parent Trap came out, and in this, there's this title sequence that's all claymation and stop-motion animation, and this has the square and a rectangle. I also found a 1962 greeting card with this expression. But then on the inside it says, get well because we want to have you around. It also appeared in this 1957 Looney Tunes Merry Melody, The Three Little Bops. Now, right around that same time, it appeared on an episode of Sam and Friends. This was Jim Henson's first television show. He did this on a station in Washington, D.C. He operated the puppets, and one of the women that worked on the show became his wife. It was Jane Henson. On an episode of Sam and Friends, there was a sketch that was called Visual Thinking.
And then I got interested in jazz.
Well, I don't like jazz.
Now, this sketch idea was revisited a few more times by Jim Henson. He did it in 1972 on an episode of Sesame Street.
Do you know what a square is?
I know who a square is.
Now, that's cute. Now, let's see you imagine a square. Then. Yes. Very good.
And in 1974 on an episode of The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Jim Henson with the Frank Oz and the Muppets. Gentlemen.
Man, look, you don't learn stuff like this. This is just what's happening.
Well, maybe I don't know what's happening.
You said it, not me.
Now, I dug around, and the oldest reference I can find to this is from 1954. In the 18th issue of Mad Magazine, back when it was still a comic book, there's a parody of Alice in Wonderland where she meets Bugs Bunny. And then at the end of the story, she wakes up, tells her sister it was Bugs Bunny and not the White Rabbit, and her sister says, oh, this was all just a dream. Then Alice turns around and is talking to the reader and is talking about the writer of the comic book, and she's saying, this is the corniest thing I ever heard.
Don't be such a square.
Now, I looked up the expression, don't be a square, and the oldest version I can find of it is from 1944. It was listed as jazz slang, and they said that it was a reference to a conductor making the four chords, which I guess would look somewhat like that. Here's my take on Uma Thurman drawing a rectangle rather than a square. I think she intended to draw a square, and I think probably from some vantage points on the set, it looked like a square, but when you looked at it on film, it looks like a rectangle. And since that line is added in post, I think it was too late to fix it.
I am rectangular. I feel it in my bones, I am rectangular.
Now, Uma Thurman was given an Academy Award nomination for her performance, and that was the year that David Letterman hosted the Oscars.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 67th Annual Academy Awards. I've been dying to do something all day. Oprah? Uma? Uma? Oprah? I feel much better.
Now, the exterior shot of Jackrabbit Slim's was filmed in Glendale, California on a piece of land that's owned by the Walt Disney Company. It had previously been a bowling alley. Disney still owns this building, and it's still there, 1435 Flower Street.
Is the reservation under Wallace?
Wallace?
Now, the interior shots were filmed inside of a warehouse in Culver City. It cost $150,000, which made it the largest line item in the budget for this film. Now, we talked about Quentin Tarantino and his inspirations for this, but he was inspired a lot in this film. The dance that John Travolta and Uma Thurman do in the movie, they are doing a dance that is inspired by the movie 8½, which came out in 1963. And inspired is a very generous way of saying it. It is the same dance. The car that they're sitting in when she does this was a red 1964 Chevrolet Chevelle Malibu.
Featured on 1975 Chevelle Malibu Classic is a system of new technological advances by General Motors.
Now, this was Quentin Tarantino's personal car, and during the production of the movie, it was stolen. As the years followed, it was assumed that since the car hadn't shown up, it wasn't going to. It was probably chopped up into pieces, sold off to different buyers. But then in 2013, cops noticed a man in Victorville stripping down a 1963 Malibu, and he checked the VIN number. So these two guys had stolen this car, and prior to them stealing it, the VIN number had been cloned by the first thief. In between, this car was sold to a man named Bill Jimenez. He believed he owned this car, fair and square. And so he put a lot of money into it. He said when he got it, it was in bad shape and it needed a lot of work.
Repainting the car, new top, interior, wheels and tires. I put over $35,000 in the car.
However, despite all of the money he put into it, when it was found, it was returned to Quentin Tarantino. And he said the worst thing is Tarantino has never reached out to him in any way. And I think Tarantino should just buy this guy a steak. Come on, Quentin, don't be a rectangle. There were so many great characters in that movie. Harvey Keitel's performance as Winston the Wolf is so great, and about a decade ago, he brought it back for a bunch of commercials in the UK.
You're Dave, right?
Yeah.
Winston Wolf. I fix problems. May I come in?
You're looking to insure your house through a price comparison site?
Look, if you think you'll only find the best home insurance deal there, then lots of luck. Out your car. Does it smoke? Make a noise?
Yeah.
Call Direct Line. They'll arrange a hire car.
A lot of actors have gone on to become wonderful pitchmen. James Karen, who was in Poltergeist and Return of the Living Dead. He was a fine actor. He was also Mr. Pathmark.
It's time to really start thinking about outdoor entertaining. And Pathmark's ready with big coupon values like these.
I dug into a lot of pitchmen recently, including like Fred the Baker from Dunkin' Donuts and the Micro Machines guy who talked really fast. And I put all of that together in a video that you can watch right up here. Otherwise, YouTube says this is what is best for you. And I'll see you next time.